Today I'm going to be going over how to make this adorable little crocheted bee. This will be a full tutorial, but if you would like to download the PDF version, I have it for sale in my Etsy for just $1. So that's, again, if you want a PDF version, or if you just want to support me, it's just $1. Okay, let's go over what you're going to need tool-wise first. You're going to need a pair of scissors, a yarn needle, and a crochet hook. The hook size we're going to be using today, is a size H8 or a 5mm hook. Next up, you're going to need at least 3 colors of yarn. If you're wanting to do a classic bee, then you're going to do white, black, and yellow, but I would like to do one that's a bit different. The example bee I did was like a corally pink color, black and yellow. And for this one, I'm going to be doing a lavender color, black and yellow. So 3 colors of yarn, and then optional safety eyes. Really, what size you get depends on what size yarn you're using and how big you want your eyes to be. This pattern can be used with various sizes of yarns and hooks. If you would like to make a bigger one, you can use bigger velvet yarn if you'd like. Just make sure you adjust the hook size to the correct hook size. And the way you can tell that is on the skein of yarn. The packaging itself should tell you what is the recommended hook size. I would recommend using that, or maybe one that's a size bigger. The last thing you're going to need is some type of polyfill or stuffing otherwise. You're probably going to need more than what I have here. This is just so you know what you're looking for, just some kind of stuffing so you can stuff the bee. If you want, you could also fill it up with like those little like beans that you would find in a Beanie Baby. That way you have like more of a Beanie Baby effect. Just whatever you want to stuff your bee with, make sure you have plenty of it. I'm going to be using polyfill. To start your bee, you're going to do something called a magic circle. You're going to wrap the yarn around your fingers twice, and that's just around 2 fingers. Then you're going to take your hook, slide up under the first wrap, and grab the one that is attached to your skein or ball of yarn, and you're going to pull that up under the second loop. After you've done that, you're going to go ahead and grab that yarn that's attached to your skein and just make a chain stitch. So one more time. Wrap the yarn around your 2 fingers twice, like this, so you have something that looks like this. You're gonna go into the first loop, grab the yarn attached to your skein, pull it through, and then do 1 chain stitch. Okay. From there, we're going to do 6 single crochets into this magic ring. So you're just going to go in like you would if you were in a chain stitch, yarn over, pull through, yarn over, and pull through both loops. And you're going to do that for a total of 6 times. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and you can pull if you want it to be tighter, just pull. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you're going to go ahead and take this and you're going to pull it as tight as you can. You don't really want there to be much of any type of circle. Okay. Now to weave it in as you go, you're basically just going to count it as part of your single crochet. So for this next round, you're going to start by slip stitching into your first single crochet here. And again, go ahead and just have your tail yarn there, or if you don't want to work it in now, You can always leave it out and at the end of the plush sew it in, but I prefer just to work it in. So a slip stitch is you pull through once and then you're just going to pull right on through. You're not going to yarn over or anything like that. And then you're going to chain one. And now we're going to be doing an increase round. So basically an increase stitch is 2 of whatever stitch into the same stitch. So we're going to be doing 2 single crochets into each single crochet from the last round. So you should have a total of 12 single crochets. Okay, when you get to this part, this is your slip stitch from your previous round. You don't want to put any single crochets into this slip stitch. So we'll go ahead and count what we have. So this is the first stitch we have right there, the first single crochet. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So once again, you're just going to go into that first single stitch or single crochet and you're going to slip stitch. So that's pulling through and pulling through. Make it as tight as you can and then chain one. And going back into that first one where you just slip stitched, we're going to again do another increase round. So we're going to do an increase in the first one, but in the second one we're actually going to do just one regular single crochet. So it's going to be 2 single crochet in the first stitch, and then 1 in the second stitch. And you're going to do that all the way around for all 12 stitches for a total of 18 single crochets. And then once you finish your round, again, don't put anything into that slip stitch right there, but we'll count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. And then you're going to slip stitch once more into that first single crochet. Make that as tight as you can and chain one. The next round, you're going to be putting 2 single crochets into your first stitch, and this is called an increase. And then you're going to be putting a single crochet in your next 2 stitches all around. So that's an increase. And then 2 crochet. 2 single crochet. And you're going to do that all around. Okay, after you do the increase and 2 single crochets, so like an increase and then your next 2 stitches just have 1 single crochet, you should have a total of 24 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. So after that, again, we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet and chain one. Now we are going to do 2 in the first single crochet. And in the next 3 stitches, you're only going to do 1 single crochet. We're going to do that all around. We're going to do that all around, and you should have 30 total stitches. You should now have 30 stitches total after your last round, and that is not counting the slip stitch or the chain. So again, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. So once more, slip stitch into your first single crochet and chain 1. We are done with our increase rounds, so the next 3 rows are just going to be single crochet around. So all you're going to do is single crochet all the way around, and when you get done with that, you're going to slip stitch into your first single crochet and chain 1. And you're going to do that for 3 rows. And how you can count rows, if you can't remember, you can just count, like right here, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you should have 8 total rows by the time you finish with your single crochets. You can also do tally marks. When I have to do a lot of rows, I usually keep tally marks down, so for every row I finish, I write down a tally mark. But you're now going to do 3 rows of single crochet in your main color, and then we will come back. Now that we have 3 rows of just single crochet, and you can check, so as you can see right there is where I did my increase. So I have 1, 2, 3 rows of just single crochet, no increase. Once you get to this point, you're going to want to go ahead and take, if you have safety eyes or if you're embroidering a face or whatever, you're going to want to do that now. So just go ahead, pull your hook, make sure that there's a nice big loop here, and make sure your string, your yarn isn't too taut off the ball, but just have a nice big loop here so that way it doesn't come unraveled. So you're going to want to put your safety eyes between rows 3 and 4. So to count that, that's 1, 2, 3, and that one is 4. So I'm going to put one eye right here between the 2, 3, and 4. And then I want my eyes to be roughly an inch apart. So I'm going to use my tape measure here to tell me approximately where it should be. So it should be somewhere over here. So now I just need to count from the center. 1, 2, 3, and that's 4. So right about there. Make sure that the eyes look kind of even, and mine do. So now I will flip it and go on ahead and push my backs onto my safety eyes. So I now have my eyes done. For my smile, I'm going to cut off some black yarn. This one is probably about 1 foot long. You don't really need that much. I just prefer to have extra. Then I'm going to take my yarn needle and there's 2 different ways you can do a little smile. I'm going to do the one that's easiest. So you're just going to come up wherever you want your smile to be at. You're going to pull through. You don't want it to be all the way through. I usually try to leave a couple inches of yarn there. And then wherever you want the middle of your smile to be, put it right through there. Like that. And then come up where you want your other half to be and push right back down the same hole that you did for your middle. And then from there, you can just tie it. I usually try to knot it like 3 or 4 times. And then here you have a choice. You can either leave that yarn there because it'll work as stuffing, or you can trim it some. If you do trim it, don't trim it too close to the knot because that's more likely that it'll come unraveled. So I'm going to leave about 1 inch on either side. You're not going to see it anyway when you're finished, so it doesn't really matter. And now we have a cute little face. Then you'll put your hook back into your loop, pull it taut, and we're going to go ahead and start changing a color. Let me just put this stuff up right fast. We're going to go ahead and start changing colors. So to do this, you're going to put in your hook into your first single crochet, but instead of doing a regular slip stitch, you're actually going to take your secondary color, the color you want your stripes to be, and you're going to take about, you want it to be about 2 or 3 inches away from your beginning, or like your end of yarn, and you're going to actually pull that through and use that for your slip stitch. And then you're going to pull it taut using the other one. Now, for me personally, to help keep it straighter, what I like to do is I like to actually take my main yarn, or whatever yarn I'm switching from, and put it like this when I start making my chain. So you're going to make a chain in your other color, and then we're going to do another 3 rounds of single crochets. And you're going to do your first couple of single crochets before you trim up your other color that you're switching from, and try to get it as even with the new one as possible. And then you're just going to work them in the same way that you did when you first started. So just consider them part of your single crochets and just go right on over them. And then, like I said, we're going to be doing 3 total rounds in your secondary color, all just single crochet all right around. So I will come back after I have done those 3 single rounds. After you've done your 3 rows in your secondary color, and 1, 2, 3, we are going to switch colors back into our main color for 3 more rounds. So once again, insert into your first single crochet. Take your secondary color, or your the color you're switching to, your main color. Pull through and pull through. And then remember to tighten. And then once again, I prefer to take whatever color I'm switching from and pull over. That just makes it more smoother. As you can tell, it looks completely even here. And normally there would be some type of jog. But if you pull your line over instead of just leaving it, that will help get rid of that. And from here, we're just going to chain 1, and then single crochet around just like you did before. Again, we're going to be doing 3 rows of single crochet. So cut it close to the other one, and we're back to our main color. So remember to weave in those ends as you go, and I will see you after we have 3 more rounds of single crochet. After you have once again done 3 more rows of single crochet, again, we're just going to be switching colors. So you're going to repeat the same thing. Insert hook to your first single crochet, grab your new yarn, in this case it's the secondary color, pull through, and tighten. Making a chain, and again you can see how if you have the yarn you're switching from on the inside, when you do your chain one, you can see how straight the lines look. And then we are yet again just doing 3 more rows of single crochet. So I will pop back on here after we've done those 3 rows. So you've got your 3 rows, and at this point you should have something that looks like this. So you've got 2 stripes in your secondary color and 1 stripe in your main color. We will once again be switching colors here and doing 3 more rounds in our main color. After we have done these 3 rounds, we'll come back and we will begin decreasing. So I will see you after these 3 rounds. So you've done your 3 rows and your bee will look something like this so far. We're now going to begin decreasing. So first we're going to slip stitch into the last single crochet, or the first single crochet of your last row, chain 1 as per usual. We're going to begin decreasing now. There are several different methods to decrease, but the one I always personally use is going in. So you see how there are 2 sides of each stitch? I go into the outer side. It's called a back loop. And then you're going to go through that on the one next to it. So this is a back loop decrease. And then otherwise you're going to work just like a single crochet. But basically you're going to be combining 2 stitches into one. Then after you've done a decrease, you're going to do 3 single crochets. And again, just to show you, going through the back loop of 1 stitch, and then coming up and going through the back loop of the 2nd stitch, yarn over, pull through both loops, yarn over, pull through both loops. And that is how you do a decrease. Once more, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets. And that's how you're going to go around the entire bee. You're going to do a decrease, and then you're going to do 3 single crochets. And you should have 24 stitches at the end of this round. To finish this row off, we're going to slip stitch into that first decrease stitch and chain 1. Here is where I'm going to begin stuffing. You can stuff however firmly or softly as you want it, but I prefer mine to be a bit more firm. And again, I recommend taking your hook out. What I do is I always put the loop on my non-dominant hand on the index finger there, and then I take the yarn that is attached to my skein and wrap it around my middle finger and then hold it with my index or my ring finger. That way I can just help better keep the plush that I'm working on open. And then you're just going to begin stuffing like you would any other thing. Again, I like mine firm, so I'm using quite a bit of stuffing here. But if you like yours soft, you can use less. It's really whatever your personal preference is. Let's see, that's not quite firm enough for me, so I'm going to add some more. Sometimes you have to readjust and fix, which is fine. Do whatever you need to do. But just pull off and stuff however firm you want it to be again. And I think that's good enough for what I want. So the next round is going to be another decrease round. similar to how when we did increases, we did increasing in every single stitch, then we did increase in 1 single crochet, then increase in 2 single crochets, and then increase in 3 single crochets. So when you're doing a decrease round, if you want to mirror the shape that you made with increase, you're going to do the exact opposite of what you did. So we started with decreasing and then 3 single crochets. So this time we're going to decrease and then do 2 single crochets. And it can be a little bit harder to work with the stuffing. So if you want to stuff most of it and then come back and finish stuffing right before you do the final decrease row, you could do that as well. But I'm pretty well experienced with crochet, so I usually just stuff all at once. But again, that is decrease and then 2 single crochets all the way around. And at the end of that, you will have a total of 18 stitches. And I will see you then. Finishing off the previous row with a nice slip stitch, chain 1, and as you can see, he's already kind of taking form, the little bee. He's a bit chonky, but that's fine. As previously stated, we are now going to do a decrease and then 1 single crochet, and that's what we're going to do all the way around for this last row, or not, second to last row, and you're going to have a total of 12 stitches when you finish this row. Your final row is just going to be decreasing all the way around. So you're going to have a total of 6 stitches when you finish this one. And again, we're just decreasing every single stitch. You can do the other decrease methods as well if you would like. Instead of using just one loop, you could use both loops. I personally prefer using only the back loops or only the front loops because it doesn't really leave a hole. Whereas if you do both loops, it leaves a tiny hole there. Or it can leave it. I've seen some people do it and it not leave a hole, but I'm not that lucky. So I just do it my method because that's what works best for me. It's really whatever works best for you personally, or whatever style you like that you should do. Alright, so after you have finished decreasing, you're going to cut off a relatively long tail. Again, you're going to want it to be about a foot long. And what I like to do is when I finish, I actually like to go ahead and chain 1 and pull through like that, because I feel like it's a bit more firm, a bit more anchored when you do it that way. And then you're going to take one of your yarn needles, and we're basically going to whip stitch the hole closed. So go through each and every stitch with your needle, just like this. You can insert from the out in, or you can insert in out the way I'm doing right now. Again, it's whatever you're most comfortable with, but just go all the way around and then pull it close like I've done here. And then what I like to do is I like to go ahead and have another little anchor knot. So you pick a stitch, run your yarn through it, leave a little loop so you can run your yarn back through, tighten, and then pull it on through a second time, tighten as tight as you can go, and then you'll have like a little knot there. All you have to do to hide that knot is run through like the closest area, the closest stitch you can, and just run your needle through and pull, and now you can't hardly see it at all. It's still there. You can still notice it if you really pay attention to it, but it's much harder to see. And once you have done that, go ahead and snip your yarn, and you now have the body of the bee. We will now begin working on the wings. So the wings are probably the most complicated part of this entire pattern, simply because of the way that they are worked. You will be working some stitches in the opposite side of the chain than what you're used to working. So we will start by chaining 9. Start with your nice slip knot and chain 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And just to make sure, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. After that, you will be single crocheting 2 into the second stitch from the hook. So 1, 2. Next, you're going to single crochet into the next 6 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. In the last chain, we're going to be doing 3 single crochets. So 1, 2, and 3. Now I have my work turned like this. It looks upside down, but this is actually the way that you are going to want your work to be held, because we're going to be working here in the back portions of the chain. So we're also going to be working that first tail into your work. So we will be single crocheting into the next 6 back halves of the chain. So like here's the first one right there, so it'll only be 1 loop, grab, and you're going to do that for all 6. So that was 1, here's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Now you will be going back into that first chain where you had done 2, and you're going to do 1 more in there. And then, as per usual, we're going to slip stitch into our first single crochet. And you're going to want to make this slip stitch as tight as you can. Next, we're going to be chaining 1. And you're going to do increases in the next 2 stitches. So 2 single crochet in the next 2 single crochet. And then once again, we're going to be doing 6 single crochet in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And now we're going to be putting 2 single crochets in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, all 3 of those are going to get 2 single crochets each. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And now we are back to doing 6 single crochets in a row. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in the last stitch, we're going to be doing 2 single crochet in it. So 1, 2, once again, we're going to be slip stitching into this first stitch, and we're going to pull that slip stitch as tight as you can. And then chain and go ahead and cut. You want to leave a bit of a longer tail than last time, so like 1.5 feet or so. Go on ahead and pull that through, pull that taut. And you might notice that one side looks a little bit bigger than the other side sometimes. Just stretch it out like this if that happens. And now you will be taking your yarn needle. So go ahead and get your yarn needle threaded there. Now we're going to be feeding the yarn through the stitches on the bottom row until you get to about the middle of your wings. So fold the wings in half, and then you can roughly mark out where you want them to go. So I want mine to go right here on this stitch. Then you're going to take your yarn and you're going to start by feeding it in the last stitch you made. I try to get it in between the 2 sections of it, like that. And then pull all that through. And then you're going to go through and just do basically the same thing, but on the top. So just like that, you can't see it on the other side. And you're going to feed it through again until you get to about the middle of your wings. Let's see, it looks like I have to feed through one more to be at my middle. There we go. And as you can see, that's pretty much the middle of my wings. Once you have gotten to the middle of your wings, you're going to go from the out and back in like that. And this is just to kind of keep it firm. Next, you're going to take your needle and you're going to just weave it through your rounds in the center. As straight as you can. As straight as you can. Then you're going to pull through and tighten it as much as you can. And once again, you're going to do the same thing where you loop back from the outside into your inner. Like that. And just tighten it as much as you can. So you'll have something that looks kind of like this. Looks kind of like the number 8 or an infinity sign or even a peanut. And then you're going to come back to your B and you're going to find roughly between the eyes, the center between your eyes, And you're going to lead back until you get to your middle row. And you're just going to start sewing your wings on. I like to kind of pinch mine and go through what is like close to where I had weaved, as close to where I had weaved my yarn through as possible. I'm sorry if that's hard to see, but you're pretty much just sewing the wings onto the body. If you would prefer to do like a different stitch and just go this way instead of doing the way I am, that's fine too. You could even potentially glue the wings on using hot glue or a fabric glue. I actually use Gorilla Glue, clear drying Gorilla Glue. Whenever I am sewing or whenever I'm gluing pieces on, I usually only use it for felt because small felt pieces are very hard to sew on. But it does work awesome. Make sure you're in a well-ventilated room if you choose to use the Gorilla Glue, though, because it is very fragrant. You can smell that stuff a mile away, and it will give you a headache if you're not careful. And once you have the wings sewn on the way you want them, just go ahead and tie off your yarn. I'm going to do the same technique that I did before, where I loop it through once and twice. Tighten as much as I can. And then you're just going to weave in that in through the body. And after that, you will have an adorable little bee. Again, if you want to have a PDF version of this, or if you would like to just support me, my Etsy will be linked down below, and the pattern is only $1 for this bee. Thank you guys very much for watching, and I hope you enjoy your bees.